Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alright guys, let's solve the paper 2 for the 2022 exam, inshallah. So, um, okay, so as usual, we're just going to fill out our information here, our candidate, our name, center number, candidate number, okay? And then we can leave the rest. Um, we've already gone through most of these instructions. So for paper 2, you can read these instructions. Let's go through them again. So make sure that you use a black ink or ballpoint pen. I would recommend a black ballpoint pen to take with you to the exam. Remember that paper 2 is going to be both, there are going to be questions that you have to write and answer, and there are also going to be questions for paper 2, because you'll be in a computer lab that you'll have to solve within a computer. You'll have to do the programming tasks there. Okay, so we'll cover those as we go along. So that's just a point. Um, Answering all questions is important. There are no optional questions. You have to do everything. So I would recommend the same. Answer the questions requiring a written answer, and the space is provided. There may be more space than you need. Okay, so for example, there are questions where, for example, you can write into these spots, and these are the places where you have to write into the question paper itself. Right. So that is that. And important to pick your programming language so we can use that throughout the examination. If you're picking Python, so you're going to solve all programming assignments with Python and no other language. Carry out practical tasks on the computer system and save new or amended code using the name given in the question with the appropriate file extension. No questions are going to have the instructions clearly written in them. So for example, it tells you have to open the file Q01F in the code editor. These files will be provided to you, okay, in the exam. And they'll tell you some instructions, and then you just have to name it according to what they've written here. If it's Q01F, so you're going to say Q01F and then finished. If it's a Python file, which is going to be in our case, we're going to do .py. Right, so that's what they mean there. And do not overwrite the original code and data files provided to you. We're going to look at how we do that, inshallah, when we go through it. So, for example, Q01G, do not edit this file. Make sure you make a copy. Okay, make a copy, rename it to Q01G finished, and then do your work inside of that file. Do not overwrite. Okay. You must not use the internet during the examination. The internet will not be available to you, and even if it is, do not use the internet to work, inshallah. So the total marks for this paper is 80. The marks for each question are shown in the brackets. This is very useful to know how much time you need to spend on each question. Use this as a guide as to how much time to spend on each question. It says the same in the paper. Okay. The codes folder in your user area includes all the codes and the data files that you'll need. Okay, so this is going to be provided to you by your invigilator. Will guide you. They will guide you, and they will tell you where to store your work. So if you don't understand, it's very important. This part, you make sure you understand how to store your work. Read each question carefully before you start to answer it. Yes, very important. Don't be in a rush, in a hurry, and answer it incorrectly or miss a question that was asked inside of the question. Save your work regularly, just in case something happens, technical issue, computer freezes, it uh, goes, its power goes off, the power of the center goes off. Anything could happen, right? So make sure you save your work regularly. Check your answers, and by saving, we don't mean that putting it into the folder wherever your invigilator asks you yet. Just saving it wherever you're saving it on your personal on your computer in the center at that time. Then when you're ready, all centers differ. So if your center has a setting like this where they're going to actually upload your questions to a specific server, or they're going to tell you to put it inside some sort of a network folder. Okay, the invigilator will guide you on this. Put your question, put your files into a certain folder, and then the invigilator could probably pull those out and in one go. So every center is different. Like I said, they will have a different way of doing this. So just follow the instructions. Make sure you understand how to work with them. Check your answers if you have time at the end. Okay, this is very important again to leave some room, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to go through the questions in your exam. If you have made any mistakes, sometimes going through it again just helps us to um, correct any errors that we might have made. Okay, answer all questions. Answer the questions requiring written answer in the spaces provided. Um, some questions must be answered with a cross in a box. You change, so basically MCQs. Okay, and if we haven't covered this already, if you make a choice like this and then later decide you don't want to do this anymore, you want to go with another option, you're going to strike that out in this way, and then you're going to select the other option. Okay, you don't do that more than once. So carry out practical tasks on the computer system and save new or amended code using the name given in the appropriate file extension. Okay, we're going to see how to do this when I'm going to solve one of these questions with the files. Use only one programming language throughout the examination. Um, okay, so we're going to select Python and we're going to stick to that exact language throughout the examination. Okay, so we're going to select Python. We're not going to do any of these things. Okay, so just select the one you want. Use only one program. Okay. Indicate the programming language that you are using with a cross in a box. We've already done that. Okay, programmers write code to solve problems. Identify the description of a variable in a computer program. A value that cannot be used more than once. Okay, so you can read out the options and pause the video and come back for the answer. As we always do, we're going to pause the video. You're going to try to solve this on your own, try to figure out what this is about, what the answer is. Write it down in your notebook if you have to, anything. This one doesn't need any writing, but just in case you come to a question that does, make sure you write and then verify your answer with the solution that I'm going to provide. Okay, welcome back. So the only correct answer here is D, a value that can change. Okay, because a variable is not a value that can be used more than once. No, this is not true. You can always use it again and again. Uh, a value that must be input. No, not necessarily true because you don't really need users to input this. A value that is always used in a calculation. Um, no, not necessarily true again. You can use it for whatever purpose you need. It's up to you. So a value that can change. This is something that makes the most sense. So that is the appropriate description of a variable. Move on. Identify the technique that improves the readability of code. Go ahead, try to figure it out. Look at the options. Come back for the answer. Right. So the only correct option here is going to be using descriptive names for variable names. Because when you talk about readability of code, we're talking about human, human, we're talking about humans basically. And it should be human readable. Okay? So using indents on every line, yes, that makes it more readable, but not on every line. No, we don't need indentations on every line, only where it's required. Okay? Not every line, not every line. Where it's required. Using descriptive names for variables, yes, that makes sense. Because if you have a variable named x, that's not very descriptive. You don't know what's inside of it. You name a variable called my age, for example. This is clear because it shows that this is about your age. It's going to be like a number and it's about your age, okay? Or we could say something like student age. Yeah, we could say something like student age and we can set it equal to 12 or 15, whatever, right? My age could be set to, let's say 18. Okay, so yeah, this is the correct answer. Let's move on. Complete the table by giving an example value for each data type. The first row has been completed for you. So this is, okay, you can pause the video, come back to the answer. All right, so the answer is very simple. So they've given you an example of each kind of data type's value. So example value is what we're looking for, right? Example value means that we are going to just provide the example. We don't need the definitions of these. You can see that this is a 2-point question, 1 point for each of the example being correct. So what is the example of a character? You know that characters can be numbers, they can be symbols, and they can also be digits. Oh, sorry, digits are already done, numbers, so symbols and characters. Alphabets, basically. Let's say alphabets to be more precise. Alphabets. Okay, so we'll say character, yes, we can just put in any character, one single character. Whatever you choose to do, you can do like a dollar sign, that's a symbol, you know, anything from these categories. You can even put a number, okay, you can even put a number. Maybe just to be careful, you can put single quotes around it to show that you're talking about a character. You don't even need to do that, just mention any alphabet just to be safe, and mention any symbol. Why do I say just to be safe? Just in case if you put a number here, they might think maybe he can't really differentiate, he or she, the student can't differentiate between what is a integer and what is a character. So, um, and by the way, you can't write two things together. It could be just it should just be a single number. That's what a character is. So if I was writing 23, that was wrong. You have to write just one character. Okay, so one character could be dollar sign, it could be a pound sign, any kind of symbol, it could be any kind of letter, uppercase, it could be lowercase letter, whatever. So I'm just going to go with a dollar sign for this. What is the value of a real? What is the example value for the real data type? Well, let's just say anything with a decimal point. So let's just say 43.2, 43.5, whatever. We can say 2.6, right? Anything with a decimal point. So let's do 23.5. All right, let's move on, alhamdulillah. Okay, the next question says, describe one difference between the data used in boundary testing and the data used in erroneous testing. Go ahead, pause the video and come back for the answer. Okay, so we are going to answer this in the following way. Let's say, my bad. So we can say one difference between the data used in boundary testing and the data used in erroneous testing was boundary data is boundary data is um, the maximum and minimum values, and which we should also say boundary data is the maximum and minimum R boundary data, uh, or you can say also boundary data is the minimum maximum value. Valid value is what I want to say here. Valid value. Okay, and you can also say something like say or um, boundary data is the upper and lower valid values of a certain number set. Well, valid values means that is the certain number set. Okay, and then finally, erroneous data. Erroneous data. Um, oh, I misspelled erroneous there. Erroneous data is the incorrect values that are not accepted uh, within a range. You could say something like that, okay? So that's what boundary data and erroneous data is. Let's move on from here. Program should output the value 2. However, there is an error in the code and the actual output is 4. Name this type of error. Go ahead. It's a 1-point question. Pause the video. Come back to the answer. Okay, this kind of an error is known as a logic error, or you can also say logical error. Okay? This is a logical error because there's something wrong. We intended the output to be 2. It didn't throw any kind of syntax error or runtime error, which basically don't even allow your program to run. But the program ran. No such errors, syntax errors, or runtime errors came up. But because we did not think it through correctly, there's something wrong in our logic. So it doesn't stop the program from working, but the output is not as expected. This kind of an error is always a logical or logic error. Let me also write logic error here. Okay, next the question is open Q01F in the code editor. The program should allow the input of the length of the side. I'm just going to put my pen down now because it's going to be a programming task. Inshallah. So the program should allow the input of the length of the side of a square. Okay, so we're going to get one side of a square as the input and output the area of the square. There are 3 errors in the code. Amend the code to correct the errors. Save your amended code as Q01F finished with the correct file extension for the programming language. Okay, so there's a 3-point question. So this is a program that's already done for us. It just contains 3 errors, and we're going to have to notify or fix the 3 errors in the code. So this is a good opportunity to show you what kind of file structure you'll have. So let me just open that up. And so here I have opened up my File Explorer in Windows, and I can see that I have a codes folder for 2022. Okay, you'll have a codes folder for any kind of exam you give in any year. Okay, so this is the codes folder, and this normally has the files for the 3 languages that Edexcel supports: C#, Java, and Python. If you go into each one of these, you'll see there are C# files, Java has Java files, .java files, and Python has .py files, .python files. These are the ones we're going to be working with, inshallah. Right, so what we should do whenever we work with these kinds of files is because in our course, when you went to the course with me, we went and we learned Visual Studio Code to program these files, right? So what you can do is right click and you can say open with code, okay? Or you could go into Visual Studio Code. Let me open that up. And you can go into File and you can say open recent or open folder, and then you can go ahead and select the folder that you need, okay? Wherever you saved it, wherever it is located on the computer's hard drive. But we will do it with the way that I showed because if it's installed this way, I just showed you the other way just in case you don't see this in the context menu when you right click it. So you can open it in that way. You can go into Visual Studio Code and open it directly. Open the entire folder. So we'll open the entire folder. Once you have that opened up, you'll see, let me just say, yes, I trust the authors, and I close off this build with agent mode. I don't need this AI right now. Okay, so you can see the files are right here. What we need to work with in the exam and the question that they asked for is Q01F. So we're going to look for Q01F right here. We're going to open that up. As soon as you click it, it opens it up on the side. Let me zoom in a little bit. And it says Q01F. And this is the file. What did they want us to do? They wanted us to correct the errors. There are 3 errors in this code. Let's see what those are. Okay, so before we work on anything, remember what they said in the paper. They say, save your amended code as Q01F finished with the correct file extension for the programming language. So programming language is already in the correct format, the file extension. All we have to do is we say, we right click, and you can already see that this, when I open the file, it's showing me two errors right here. And it's kind of highlighted red over here. It's also showing two errors here, showing this red squiggly line here, red squiggly line here. The benefit of using Visual Studio Code is it already tells you what the problem is. Okay, before we work on anything, say right click, and actually we'll just press Control C, Control V. What you can do is copy, and then we can just right click and say paste. So now it says Q01F copy. I will say rename, or I can hit F2, and I will make sure you don't accidentally change the file extension here. Okay, leave that as pi, and then Q01F, leave that as it is, no spaces, and do Q01F finished in all caps like this, exactly as they've asked you to do. Okay, there we go. Now we can work on this file. So firstly, we'll save this. It hasn't been saved already. Now, if you still haven't gone through and worked with the file, go ahead, find this opportunity to work through the file while I wait for you. You can pause the video and come back now that I've showed you how to open up the folder and work with the files. All right, welcome back. So now let's try and solve the problem. So quickly, we'll see that we're creating a length variable, and then we're taking the input from the user, enter the length of a side. So you know that when you want to calculate the area of a square, you're going to have to multiply one side of the square with the other side. Okay, so let's try and fix this now. So let's just, and then finally we can say there's another error here. It says print the area of the square is, and then area. So let's quickly go through this. So we're creating a variable length, converting it to a float value. Okay, why? Because when you take input from the user, it is returned as a string. So even if they enter a number or a real number, like with a decimal point, 42.2, whatever, that is going to be returned as a string. So we're going to use the float type casting function to convert this to the float data type. The only problem is they open the float here, and the float function is supposed to be written like this, remember, with both parentheses, and whatever you want to convert to the float value, you have to put that number in between here. So if this is a string, let's say 45.2, this is going to convert it now to a float number. Okay, so let's go ahead and we can first fix this error by making sure we wrap this entire input function in the float value. Okay, the next problem that you need to fix here is it says the area is having a yellow squiggly line this time, because this is a variable that's basically defined, but you haven't yet set any value to it. Why? Because you're using a double equal to sign here. This is a comparison operator. This is used when you want to check if two values are exactly equal to each other. You have to use the assignment operator, and there are many kinds of assignment operators that we discussed in our course. You have to use that. So single equal to right here is going to fix the problem. Area is equal to length times the length. Okay, very good. So the length we're getting from the user, and then we say print the area of the square is. So we've fixed two errors so far. The last error to fix is a concatenation problem. It says the area of the square is, comma, area. So we're trying to print the area variable here, but it's being treated as a string because our quotation marks, it's included in the quotation marks. So what we have to do is we simply remove the quotation mark from here. We're going to put it up till here. This is our string. And then we can say area. Okay, we'll save the code and we'll try running this. Remember that if you want run Python file button, you have to make sure that the extension is installed. It should be installed in your exam center. If it is not, you can use if it is, then you can use the run Python file. If it isn't, you can just simply go to view terminal, and and it's important to open the folder that you're working with, because the terminal's path or directory is then also changed to this current directory. That's why I stress upon opening the folder using Visual Studio Code. And you don't have to worry about working with paths. Then you can simply say hi, and then you can run the file, which is named q01 finished.py. Oh, so q01f finished.py. So it says enter the length of a side, let's say 23.5. So the area of the square is 552.25. Okay, now the program is working perfectly. You can save the code and you can submit this Q01F finished as the answer. All right, so the next question is, a program is needed that will accept the input of a letter and compare it with a stored letter. Okay, so we will take the input of any kind of a letter and we'll compare it with a letter that's stored in the program. It will check whether the letter comes earlier in the alphabet, okay, later in the alphabet, or is the same letter as the stored letter. Okay, it will output the letter and the stored letter with an appropriate message. Open Q01G in the code editor, amend the code to complete the if statement used to produce the output. So you just have to fix the if statement here. That's all they're asking to do. Never do more than they've asked. Okay, as you see with the previous answer that we did, we only fixed the 3 errors. We didn't add anything else. Okay, no need to add anything else and waste your time. Have to do other things as well in the exam. Okay, then you must use the structure given in Q01G to complete the program. Don't change the structure. Do not add any further functionality. See, they mentioned that again. Save your code as Q01G finished with the correct file extension for the programming language. Okay, go ahead. You guys know how to do this. Let's open up the Visual Studio Code Q01G. Okay, you can see the code right here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it. And uh, okay, so we can say Q01G and we can duplicate this, or I'm just going to say copy paste. Oops. It has 5 errors because there are things we need to fix and add here. They just wanted us to amend the code by completing the if statement. Go ahead, pause the video and do this when you're done. Just remember to rename this correctly before you start working on it. So I'm going to rename this to U01G finish.py. Okay, U01G finish.py. Go ahead, solve it and come back. Okay, so here's the solution. While you were gone, I also worked on a solution. So as you can see, I saved it in Q01G finished. And save that as well. You can see this is everything else the same. I just put the stuff in the if condition, the elif condition, and then the else. I didn't change the structure. Obviously, I could have written it in a different way. You can use this to be like the double equals to if you wanted to in the beginning. So however you want to do it, I'd like to do it this way. So if the letter is less than the stored letter, so the letter has been given to us by the user, okay, it's going to be a string, and we're comparing it with a stored letter. This is a comparison operator. If the letter is less than the stored letter, and you remember when we compare things like this in Python, you're actually comparing the ASCII code. So you're comparing with the ASCII code of the letters behind these letters. So we discussed that in our course what the ASCII quotes are, and the numbers behind letters. So we're basically just comparing numbers if one number is greater than the other number. So this is checking if the letter is less than the stored letter. This one's checking if the letter is greater than the stored letter. If it's less than, so in the condition, we indent the code, remember, Python, to show that something's nested inside something. So print your letter comes earlier in the alphabet as compared to the stored letter. Okay, so kind of like a game where you say if it's coming lesser or earlier, and then you can try and figure out the letter. This could be put into a loop, but since they said don't change the structure, so we're not going to do all of that. Remember, only answer as much as required. The second elif statement is saying if the letter is greater than the stored letter, then you'll say your letter, and then letter, we're concatenating these strings together, comes later in the alphabet as compared to the stored letter. And finally, because both of these conditions are now met, the only last condition left is going to be your letter is the same as the stored letter. Although this is going to cause a problem because when you won't enter any letter, it will still say the same thing. Let's test it, and I'll just press enter. Oops. I'll press enter here, and you'll see it picks up one of the statements, okay, because a blank character is also having a code which is less than everything else. So that's why it says your letter, whatever, which is empty, comes earlier in the alphabet as compared to the stored letter. Okay, so maybe you need to make another if condition, a validation check to see if the user has entered something. If they haven't, then we're not going to do any of this. We're just going to throw an error code. So that's going to be, anyways, we don't want to change the structure, but taking programming classes with me, you should know how to implement that, inshallah. Okay, so let's just test the code for real this time, and let's, not considering the error cases, because we can't change the structure. Let's say if I enter F, which is less than G, it should say your letter F comes earlier in the alphabet as compared to the stored letter. Let me run it once more. Your input a letter says your letter, let's say, I'll say H. This comes after G. So you says your letter H comes later in the alphabet as compared to the stored letter. And now I'm going to use just to show you, you can also run the code like this. Open Q01 G finished .py, and then the code runs again. So I'll say input a letter. This time I'll enter the same as a stored letter because I know the stored letter is G right here. So it says your letter G is the same as the stored letter G. Okay, and the reason why I said stored letter here and nowhere else is because we don't want to reveal the stored letter to the user. It's kind of like a game, maybe. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Let's go to the next question. So it says several encryption algorithms have been developed. Identify what is meant by encryption. So go ahead, pause the video, try to figure out the answer. Oh, my bad. I just realized we went on to question 4. So sorry about that. We will actually do the next question, which is question 2. We were on question 1. We'll do question 2. So Raza is writing a program to tell the user whether a number they input is a prime number. A prime number is a whole number larger than 1 that can only be divided by 1 and itself with no remainder. This pseudocode contains the logic required to complete the program. So here's the pseudocode required to complete the program. What are they asking us? First question they ask us, answer these questions about the pseudocode. Identify a line number where selection starts, 1 point question. Identify the line number where iteration starts, another point question, 1 point. Identify a line number where a string and a number are printed on the same line. Okay. Identify the name of a local variable. Identify the name of a parameter. Yeah, and the next part, we're going to wait for that part next. So here's the pseudocode. you can pause the video and you can try and figure out these questions. Make sure to open the question paper in front of yourself. You can go to Save My Exams or Edexcel's official website and you can download these. Um, Again, this is the question paper for the year 2022, and this is 4CP02. That's the exam code, and this is the paper 2. Okay, so I hope you had enough time to figure this out, and let's try and answer these questions. Right, so let's try and solve this, inshallah. Right, so the first question is identify a line number in the pseudocode where a selection starts. What is a selection? Selections are basically, or to remember flowchart, they are the diamond shapes, decision symbols. So selections are if-else statements. Okay. So here is where a selection statement is basically starting. If there's another if selection statement starting at right over here. So and there's another one here as well, 20, line 20. So we just need to identify any of these. So I could just say, because it says identify a line number where selection starts. They didn't ask us to identify everywhere. Identify every line number where a selection starts, just one, so we'll just give any one. I'll just say 3 here. That's where a selection is starting, right here, line number 3, if statement starts. It says identify line number where iteration starts. Iterations are loops. We have for loops, we have while loops. Which one are we talking about here? So we are going to look for any loops. There's a loop right here, a for loop ending over here. That's the only loop I see, so I'm going to write line number 7. Identify a line number where a string and a number are printed on the same line. So a string and a number are printed on the same line. So we can see a lot of print statements like this one, like output statements, send this to display. We can see one here. No, we don't see this is one. And then these are the other two. So this one has a number because we know that number is going to be an integer because we're going to receive this number from the user, from the keyboard, according to Edexcel pseudocode. It's going to be an integer. We know that this is an integer. Integers are numbers. So not just because it says number as a variable name, but we know that the data type of this variable is also going to be integer right here. So here's where a number and a string are being printed together. Okay. So we're going to say, we could say line number 21 and line number 23. So just ask for 1, so let's say line number 21. You could also say line number 23. As they ask for 1, we'll just put 1 in here. Identify the name of a local variable. The local variables are variables used within functions. And of course, we covered this in our course, local scope, local variables. But here, local variable, because the function starts from here, is the name of the function. This is the syntax we use in Edexcel pseudocode. And you can refer to the pseudocode command set. That is also attached at the end of every question paper. You can see how you make functions right here. Selection, let's see, where is it? Right here. They can also call it repetition. So you can see a repetition or a function starts like this, for whatever, and then you can end the for. Oh, sorry, we're not talking about, sorry, I'm looking at repetition. We're looking for functions, right? Functions are subprograms, and that's mentioned right here. So function, ID, parameter, begin function, end function, and then return something from the function as well. So that syntax is mentioned, examples are mentioned. You can go and refer to that if you forget what to write here. Okay, so we were right here. So identify the name of a local variable. This is where the function is starting, it's ending. We need to identify any kind of variable that's being used within this function and not present outside in the main program as a local variable, as a global variable in the main program. So here, key number looks like a local variable, check, count, all of these are being used within within the variable. So identify the name of a local variable. We can just say, let's say we could say p number. We could also say any one of these if you enter, if you write is going to be okay. So we could also say I'm doing a slash. That means you can also write that. Check. You can also write count. All three of these are correct. Identify the name of a parameter. So parameters are whatever that goes inside of the function's parentheses. Okay, and there are two kinds of these things. We call them parameters, and then sometimes we call them arguments. And I told you in the course, when do we call them an argument? When do we call them a parameter? So parameter is when you're defining the function right here. Call it a parameter. So this is identify the name of a parameter. We'll do p number because that's being used over there. Okay, and if you look at right here, when we're calling the function again, we're using number. You're passing number. So this is then going to be called an argument. Okay, this is an argument. And this is going to be parameter. So it's called parameter and argument in the different scenarios that we use it. So when you're calling the function and anything you pass into the parentheses is going to be known as an argument. And when you're defining the function, anything between the parentheses is known as a parameter of that function. All right, that clears it up. Next part of this question is write a program to implement the logic in the pseudocode. Open Q02B in the code editor, write the program. You must use the structure given in Q02B to complete the program. Do not add any further functionality. Save your code as Q02B finished with the correct file extension for the programming language. Okay, so let's go ahead and you guys can pause the video, look at the pseudocode, and go ahead and implement this pseudocode in Python. All right, so now that you're back, let's go implement this. So we're going to go into Q02B and we are going to copy and we're going to paste. And then we're going to rename this to Q02B finished.py. Okay. And now we are going to refer to the pseudocode and start writing. So firstly, we need to write a function. I'm going to do this side by side so you guys can have a quick reference to this. Close down all the extra tabs here. Small as possible. Okay, and zoom out. I'm going to have this in front of us and we're going to start writing. So firstly, we need to write the function. So we need to write a function called check prime. Okay, we need to say the keyword define in Python to define the keyword, define the function check prime, and we're going to pass in a parameter p number. Then we need to do the colon to write the function. So we're going to then, I'm just following that. You can follow the pseudocode on the side. Number equals 1. Then, so I'm just translating it into Python. You guys know how to do Python in because of the course that we did together. So again, the purpose of this is not to go in depth into programming. We're just going to be talking about how to solve these questions. Right? If you want to do that, you can join the course with me, register for the course whenever new classes start, or go ahead for any kind of self-study option that you want to avail, inshallah. So, okay, so if p number equals to 1, check, the variable check is going to be equal to false. Okay, so check hasn't been used yet. We could set the value of check, initialize it to something in the beginning, but let's not do that right now because that's not in the program, the pseudocode, the algorithm pseudocode that they mentioned. So else we want to set the check equal to true, right? And then we want to create a for loop within this else statement because you can see the indentation is telling us what is inside what. So since this is still inside of the for else, we're going to put this for loop in here. For count from range 2 to p number, for count in range 2 to p number, we are going to do the following. If p number mod count, so we'll say modulus right here. That's how you do it in Python, mod count. And you can see why they're using these functions, because they want to actually test you remember all of the different operators. And we covered all of these operators during our course. Check equals false. And that's it. And for, and if, and for, and if. We don't need to do that in Python. The indentation is enough to tell that the what is inside what, and the colon tells where we started writing the if statement, where we started writing the for loop, right? Where we define the function. That's the benefit of using Python. You can see that we wrote a lot of this in fewer lines. Okay. So after all of this, we want to return to the level where we're still inside of the function, but outside of everything else, which is this level. And we'll say return check. Okay. And then, so that's the function defined right here. Now we want to write the main program out here, because this is where we write the main program. So you can see that we're now outside the function. We need to remove this indentation completely. Now we're at the same level as where the function was defined. We're outside it now. So now this is the main program. This is in the global scope. So now we want to send enter a number to display, receive. So we're just going to do simply an input function. And we're going to say enter a number, because you know the cool thing about Python is that it combines the output statement that you did on line 16 and the input statement that you did on line 17, combines them into just one. The output and input become one thing. You simply pass the output you want to give as the parameter of the input function. So this is going to return to us a string. We need to make sure we convert it to an integer right here, right now, so that we don't have to worry about it later. And because they've converted it right here, you can see integers being converted at the input point of input. So we are going to do that as well. And we're going to receive it into a variable called number. So we're just going to say set this equal to number. There we go. Line 16, 17 implemented. And then we're going to set result equal to create a variable called result. We're going to set it equal to. We're going to call the function right here, check prime, and we're going to pass in the number. Right now, still in the main program, we're going to write another if statement. If result is equal to true, then we want to do the following. Oh, I always do the single equals to. That's the assignment operator. The comparison operator, double equals. If result is equal to true, print, that's the output statement, print number, comma. We can also use the plus operator if we wanted, but the cool thing about comma is that it has like a space on its own. Actually, let's do because they use a space there, you can see they use a little bit of a space here. So we are going to use the plus operator this time. Space is a prime number, and we're going to send that to display. Else, colon, print number plus. We can actually just copy this, Control D, Alt. Once you copy, you can do Control D like this in Visual Studio Code. Control D, and then just hold down Alt if you're on Windows, and then you're gonna do the up and down arrow keys to move a line of code up and down in the code. I'm gonna remove what I just wrote here. It says number is not a prime number, so I just need to add a not in the string. That's it. So let's enter this. Let's run this. It says enter a number. Let's see if 2 is a prime number. It says number plus is not is oh, okay. Yeah, the problem is again that there is an error. There is an error, and the error is that you cannot concatenate. You can see unsupported operator plus int and string. You can't basically concatenate a number and a string together. So we simply need to convert this to a string like that. And if I save it, I run it, and now I do 2 again. It says 2 is a prime number. If I run it again, say 5, 5 is a prime number. Let's say 20, say 20, 230. The 230 is not a prime number. Okay, so this is the program. You can check it out and do this on your own as well. Okay, the next question asks you, question number 3. Manjeet sells copies of a science textbook to schools. She needs a program to process textbook orders. It must, here are the requirements, accept the input of the number of textbooks required, generate the price per textbook, generate the total cost of the order, and display the price per textbook and the total cost of the order. So the price of one textbook depends on the number ordered. They give us some quantities here, and they gave us the price per textbook right here. Um, so it says open Q03 in the code editor, write the program. You must use the structure given in Q03 to complete the program. Do not add any further functionality. Save it as Q03 finished. Okay, so let's look at the structure inside Q03.py. It says firstly you have to initialize your variables, and then you have to print prompt and take number of textbooks required. So here you're going to do the inputs from the user and generate a display the price per textbook and the total cost. So you can choose to write over here just for your reference. If you don't have any space to write, you can write your little algorithm that you need to do, right? So this is kind of like the written description, a very basic one of what you need to do in this program, right? This is kind of like your algorithm. So let's go ahead. You can pause the video and start working on this and see if your answer is correct once we come back. So remember to save this as Q03 finished.py, and we can start working here. So I'm going to work through this. We're going to work through this together, inshallah, right? So I'm not going to pause and code just pops up on your screen this time. Let's try to build it together. So firstly, we need to accept some things. We need to initialize some variables. Okay, so we need to accept, and what the program needs to do is it just needs to generate the price per textbook and generate the total cost of the order. Okay, so firstly, we need to set the price per textbook as initial variables. Okay, and if the quantity is more than 6 and up till 9, then we want the price per textbook to be 15. Okay, and if the quantity is more than 10 or more, we want to set the price to per textbook to 12. So we're giving them group discounts here is what we're basically doing. So yeah, um, let's see how we can build this, inshallah. So firstly, we need to accept the input of the number of textbooks required. So we need to take the quantity. So we'll initialize a variable quantity. Actually, we'll do that on this part right here. So we'll say quantity that needs to be taken from the user, and we'll say, we'll also turn this into an integer right now. We'll say, what do they need? Accept the input of number of textbooks required. How many textbooks do you need? Is it textbooks or books? Textbooks. do you need? Or just instead of asking a question like that, it's better to say enter the number or quantity of textbooks you need. And then we'll do an exclamation mark, sorry, a colon and then space. The user can enter their value. So that will say that in the quantity variable. Remember to keep your variables descriptive like the one we've done here. Close this up. Okay, so enter the quantity of textbooks you need. What else do we need to do? It says generate the price per textbook. This is what the program needs to basically do. Okay, so we're going to set the price per textbook. Let's say price is equal to £20. And they said it's supposed to be like a price that's supposed to be like a real value, a real number value with a decimal point. So price is $20, 20 pounds. And we're going to adjust the price once we have, once we make the program, inshallah. So then what we need to do is generate the price per textbook, generate the total cost of the order. Okay, generate the price. So we're going to say the order price is going to be, let's say, 0. Okay, we're going to adjust that later. The price is at the moment $20. It needs to start out from there. Okay. All right, so I think those are enough for now. We'll see if we need to adjust this as we make the program, because as I said, I haven't made this program before. I'm just doing it for you guys. So let's do it as we go, inshallah. Okay, so now we print prompt and take the number of textbooks required. Okay, so we took that from the user, we saved it in quantity. Now here we need to generate and display the price per textbook and the total cost. So let's go ahead and generate and display the price per textbook. They didn't ask us to use any functions or anything like that. So we don't need to do that. We just need to make it right here in the main program. We don't need to make sub programs and functions basically. Okay, so we will say generate and display the price per textbook. So we're going to say if the quantity in range, and what's the range that they mentioned here, is 1 to 5. So it starts from 1, goes all the way till 5. We are going to say price is equal to, going to be set equal to 20. We don't need to do this. This is already done, but let's just do it. Okay. Because it's already 20 in the beginning. Elif quantity in range 6 to 9, that the price to be equal to £15. Else so if it's 10 or more, we can do another elif here. If quantity is quantity is greater than 10. Greater than or equal to 10. Let's do that. We could also, I think, just left else, but I don't want to do that. So let's just define this very clearly. If the quantity is 10, set the price to £12. I believe that is correct. Yeah, 12. Okay, so the price will now be set. Now we just need to calculate adjusting or giving group discounts here. So we can just write a comment here. Giving group discounts here. Based on quantity. We'll see, maybe I made some mistakes. I'm writing this program as we go. We'll correct anything if we need to. So giving group discounts, we've done that. The discount part is done. So it says generate the price per textbook based on the discount. Okay. We've also already accepted the number of textbooks required, so those two are done. Now we need to generate the total cost of the order, and let's do that. So generate the total cost of the order. So if well, I think the total cost of the order has also been calculated, so we just need to then, oh yeah, we need to do generating total cost of order. So total cost of order is done right here. What do we need to do? So we said order, total order, we could say order price, or we could say total order. So the total price or the total order. We could also say total price. Okay. And total price is going to be equal to, we initialize it with zeros, going to be equal to, say, the price of the book that we have. We've changed it here. Okay. It's going to be more books. So the price has been set based on the quantity of books ordered. We're going to say price times the quantity. That's going to be the total price simply for the order. Finally, we need to display the price per textbook and the total cost of the order in a nice little output statement saying display the output. So we're going to do a print statement. We're going to say the total price per the total, what did they say? Display the price per textbook. Textbook is, and then we'll just mention the textbook price. We can also do F strings. I've already showed you the comma and the plus. You can also do F strings. Okay, because they didn't specify anything like they need and need concatenation down here. But it would be good if you show it in the concatenation way, so you know how to do typecasting as well. The price per textbook is total price. Oh, sorry, not total price. The price per textbook is price. And then we'll do just copy paste this print statement so it does it on a new line. The price per total price for your order is, and then we'll write total price here. Okay, let's run this code. Let's see how this works. Enter the quantity of textbooks you need. Let's do some testing on our code. So if I enter 1, I should get 20 as the textbook price per textbook price, and the total price should also be 20. Let's see if that works as expected. Yes. Price per textbook is 20, and the total price for your order is 20. Let's try some value between the range, like 3. Try it again. Let's run the code. Say 3 this time. So the total price per textbook is 20. That's fine. And the total price for your order is 60. So 20 times 3 is 60. That makes sense. Let's try 5. Let's try the upper limit of the range that they've mentioned here. And this time let's say 5. So it says that the order is still $20, 20 pounds. Okay, that is also fine. That works. Okay, because we defined the range right here. And now it's becoming 20 times 5 is 100. Let's try it once more. Let's just go to 6. Let's see what happens. As soon as we go to 6, because 6 up till 9, the price is going to be £15. So you can see we set that in this range right here. 6 to 9 is going to be £15. And based on that, we said 15 times 6. So let's do that calculation just so you make sure as well. You can try it here. 15 times 6 is 90. If you don't have a calculator available to you, you can always just run a command prompt and write Python. And now you can type Python, you can do basic calculations here. You can say 15 times, 15 times, what was it again? 6. So it gives us 90, so we just verified. Right, so we just verified that. That is working. Let's try the upper limit of this range again, 9. Again, I'm doing this testing just to show you. You might not have that much time in your exam, but it's always good to test towards the end of your code exam or something when you have time before you submit your files. So let's try another range this time. Let's say, uh, let's say 9 this time. Oh, you notice it says the textbook per price. The price per textbook is 20 again. Supposed to be 15. Why is that? I entered 9, didn't I? Okay, it's setting it back to 20. So the problem is, what if I say 10 here? And if I say 9 again? Oh, now it's working correctly. Well, this was a logical error. There was no error in the program. Nothing stopped working, like syntax error, runtime error. There's a logical error because we know that Python counts from, in the range function, it starts from 6 but goes all the way till 1 less than the number provided. Okay, so we can safely use this for here. And yeah, so it should work now. And if I run 6 again, still 15. And if I run 5, it's 20. Okay, that's working fine. And you can always adjust your ranges to fix these issues. Okay, let's try it once more. And this time let's do the range 10 or more. So let's enter 10 this time. Let's see what happens with 10. And it says price per textbook is 12. Yeah, we got £12 right here, working fine. And the price per order is 120. Okay, so 12 times 10 is obviously 120. We don't need to do that in the calculator. Right. So all of that seems to be working. Let's try something really big, like 1,000. Oops. Let's see what happens. There we go, 12,000. Price per textbook is 12. The total price for your order is 12,000. So our program is now working correctly. And you can see if you did it the same way and compare your answer. Right, so the next question says several encryption algorithms, and we're now in question 4. Several encryption algorithms have been developed. Identify what is meant by encryption. So answer this question, come back for the answer. Okay, so here we can quickly just get the right answer, which is identify what is meant by encryption. So encryption, conversion of ciphertext into plain text. No, it's the other way around. Encryption. This is decryption. This is the definition of decryption. Why can't I type? Just change from white color to black. That's why. Black color to white. So this is decryption. This is not encryption. This one says conversion of plain text into ciphertext. Yeah, that one makes sense. So I'll just choose that option for now. Conversion of code into data. No, not really. Conversion of data into information. That doesn't really make sense. So no. So option B is the only correct answer. Figure 1 shows a pigpen cipher grid. And you know how pigpen ciphers work. So figure 1, complete the table by adding the symbol for each letter in the word may. Go ahead, pause the video, and come back for the answer. So the answer is very simple. You can look at the pigpen cipher grid, and you can figure this out. Where's the letter M? My color of the pen changed again, so let's do black. So you can look at the letter M and see where M is. M is right here. So it's got this shape. We're going to highlight that, and that's the shape we need to enter. And make sure that the dot is mentioned very exactly as the pigpen cipher grid's shape is. A is going to be this way. Okay, you can see A is right here, this way. And Y. Y is right here. You can see the shape is this kind of a shape. So this is the answer for this question. So it says here the message the enemy is near is encoded using a different encryption algorithm. So this is the rail fence cipher if you don't already know. Shows the first stage of the encryption process. Okay. Give the key used in the first stage of the encryption process. Give the ciphertext that is produced by the encryption algorithm. Give the name of the encryption algorithm that has been used to produce the ciphertext. So I already told you one of the answers. Go ahead and try to figure out the rest of them. Pause the video, come back. Okay, so it says this is the encryption process. And if I want to figure out the key, there's one of the questions for the key, right? So the key is definitely, we're going to count the number of rows here. So 1, 2, if it was plus 1, it was plus 2, plus 3, whatever. The key was 1, 2, 3. And say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 total rows, so the key is definitely 5. So we can mention right here, give the key used in the first stage of the encryption process. This is 5. Give the ciphertext that is produced by the encryption algorithm. What is the ciphertext that is produced by this algorithm? Okay. So how do you produce the ciphertext? You're just going to look at each row and you're going to start writing whatever letters you've seen here. That's how you do the railfence cipher, by the way. The name of the encryption algorithm is called railfence cipher. Okay, you can write that in there and give the ciphertext as, okay, so we're just going to have to count. We're going to look at row 1, put everything that we see here. We see, I'm going to do it right here, and then I'm going to move my answer to the top. So I see a T, and then I see an I in the same row, so I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to look at the next row. I'm going to move this arrow down and look at the next row. This time we have H, Y, and S in this row. So we'll write that, H, Y, and S. Then I'll move my arrow down, say E, M, N, E, M, N. I'll move my arrow down once more, E, 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 3 E's, and then an R. E, E, R. And then finally, we have an N and an A. So I can just take this entire ciphertext, kind of rotate it a little bit. Okay, I can take that and I can move it as the answer right here. Scale it down a bit. And you don't have to do this because you would be writing with a pen, just so that I can have it in a neat way in my paper. Okay, so that is the solution. There we go. See if your answer was correct.